people so willingly will turn around and be like, this is how undocumented migrants are. That's 12 million people. What the do you mean this is how 12 million people from every different part of the fucking planet? How can you literally say this is how all undocumented migrants are? That's insane. That's an insane statement. Wisconsin gets the kill white male image makeover. Natalie Rupnow, the 15-year-old girl police identified as a Wisconsin school who killed. Oh my God. They did it. They did it again, bro. Shoot a student and a teacher in a deadly rampage. Looks like she knew how to handle a firearm, at least according to the first photos that surface of her online. They did it. They did it again. They can't stop themselves, man. They can't help themselves. They did the Zach Fox tweet again. How will they argue Luigi cores the civilian population without making it seem like the ruling class is a special caste? I mean, that kind of is the attitude that people have. It's just vibes based.
Madison, Wisconsin, school shooting that left a student and teacher dead, 6 others injured after a 15-year-old girl opened fire. Alex Perez is in Madison with the latest. Good morning, Alex.
Hey, good morning.
Wait, what did Zach Fox say? Zach Fox once famously tweeted out this jet ski photo and was like, I don't know where the Zach Fox tweet is. Maybe someone can link it in the chat, but it's like, basically making a joke about the media and how they cover like white cereal. Like if it's a black person that's like stolen a Skittles or something and then got shot and killed, they will literally use like the worst possible image of that person to make them seem like they were a thug who deserved it. And then if it's like a white person that like literally serially murdered their entire family and maybe other families as well and then ate them, they'll post a photo like this. Yeah. This is how the photos be looking at headlines on a white man his entire family. They'll always humanize the perpetrators when the perpetrators are white. They will always dehumanize the victims of like police brutality, even if they are victims themselves or perpetrators themselves when they are not white. It is a very glaringly obvious bias that plays a role in manufacturing consent, because the reality of the matter is white people are a part of the in-group, and therefore we have the capacity to understand that when a white person does something, it does not reflect poorly on the entirety of the white population. But when a black person does something, the idea is that it reflects poorly on the entire black population. Just like when an undocumented migrant commits a heinous act, right, of murder or sexual assault, people so willingly will turn around and be like, this is how undocumented migrants are. That's 12 million people. What the do you mean this is how 12 million people from every different part of the fucking planet? How can you literally say this is how all undocumented migrants are? That's insane. That's an insane statement. Like there is no, any group that is a marginalized group or a minority group, like a trans person, for example, will do something. And that's all of a sudden a reason to hate all trans people. That's just how racism works. That's just how it is. And this is part of the problem, or this is part of the analysis with respect to like anti-white racism. Whenever people try to like bring up anti-white racism charges, okay, where we all understand that like not every single white male is a school shooter. You know what I mean? Even though the overwhelming majority of school shooters are straight white men, but you don't operate with the same fear that like the next person that you see that is a white man is going to be a school shooter. It just doesn't work that way. No, stop saying I mean or they are. You're fucking stupid. When you say stupid things like this, when I'm in the process of making a fucking argument, I know that you're like sarcastically saying it or if you legitimately believe it, but I'm talking about the broader society. Most people with the social conditioning that they have do not have the capacity to apply racist dynamics to the in-group. That's just how it is, okay? You can try as hard as you want in this chat to be like, nah, that's how it is. But that's not how it works in the real world, okay?
Morning, George. Through her social media, we're now getting a better picture of what the 15-year-old may have been thinking in the moments before the
This morning, the search for answers. Investigators closely sifting through 15-year-old Natalie Rupnow's social media account.
For the record, the best possible example of this is if we're going to talk about like a 50-50 split between men and women, okay? The best possible example of this is when a woman is called a whore or when a woman is objectified, right? Hypersexualized. and shit on the virtue of their of them being a woman, okay, that is a damning statement against all women. But the opposite doesn't work in the same way, no matter how hard people try. Okay, for example, if you were to turn around and say like, oh, all men are trash, people get mad at that for sure. But most people do not have this this understanding. That's not a real thing that people truly believe. That like when people say, "Oh, men are trash," that this is a damning statement against all men across the fucking board, no matter what they've done. People just simply don't read it in the same way, and that is because there is a shit ton of social conditioning and a shit ton of normalization of the notion that like women are supposed to be objects of sexual desire and so many other things that compound on top of that. Okay. And the reason why I use the male-female dynamic here is specifically because like it's almost a 50-50 split, regardless of patriarchal constructs that have historically dominated women and still have remnants in contemporary American existence, in contemporary Western existence.
Hoping to figure out why the teen shot and killed a teacher and student at her school, injuring 6 others.
Identifying a motive is our top priority, but at this time it appears that the motive was a combination of factors. We're talking to students to understand whether bullying was one of those multiple factors.
Police say the shooter brought a handgun to school and opened fire in a study hall classroom Monday. Many of the families at Abundant Life are Pastor Brian Peterson's parishioners, including one of the survivors.
What she had to see, no child should see, in that she was right there in the room when it was taking place.
Investigators digging through the digital footprint, discovering posts made in the minutes before the shooting.
We are working to authenticate the documents that you see online that some are referring to as a manifesto.
James Smith's daughter is a junior at Abundant Life. He says it's a refuge for many students who struggle at other schools.
Those who have been disenfranchised or bullied in other situations and saying, well, you can find love here. You can find acceptance.
I could only imagine.
Overnight, a vigil at the state capitol, remembering those who were killed.
Honestly, it's still kind of hard to think and feel feelings because of just how incredibly emotionally and mentally taxing that experience was. You never really realize how much something like this will affect you until it happens.
And authorities have collected evidence from the home and say her parents are cooperating. Michael?
All right. I want to reiterate something that I've talked about in the aftermath of the first attempted assassination against Donald Trump and also the successful assassination of Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO. Most mass shootings that are commonplace in the United States of America are not actually conducted against people who are responsible for the pain that people have experienced, okay? It's not actually directed at a vector of power and control. It's almost always directed at random individuals that are either on the same class structure as you, that exist in the same class structure as you, or are lower, I guess, in the social categorization, right? Mass shootings are normalized and considered to be a natural occurrence, almost like treated like an earthquake or whatever in the United States of America, when it's punching down, when the victims are oftentimes some of the less protected members of society. And that is because these sorts of mass shootings are not disruptive to the pre-existing hierarchy. That is the reason why what this shooter has done, even though she was directly, and there's enough evidence here to point to this, directly a part of a terrorist telegram called Terrorgram, whose founders have been arrested by the American state, by the FBI for committing international acts of terror, including the mass stabbing incident in Turkey. The person that did that, by the way, she mentioned in her manifesto that there is not, like, this is not considered or packaged or talked about in the same vein as an act of terror. It's the stochastic terrorist who was goaded into taking a white nationalist stance and then inevitably engaging in an act of cruelty and an act of terror, specifically because there is this like underlying interest in sparking a race war. Raid from Paroles d'honneur, French decolonial media. Oh, wow. Oui, oui. Welcome to the French, to le French. Hope you had a good stream. Paroles d'honneur. Bonjour. Oui, oui. C'est vrai. Nique la police. Okay. Is a far left channel. Yeah. Just like I always talk about like permissible bigotry and the appropriate vectors of violence and hatred. This is yet another example of this, right? You write legislation that is against healthcare, for-profit healthcare. You are branded as an enemy by corporate media. Okay? You try to disrupt the military-industrial complex and its profit motive-backed, its profit-driven agenda of violence globally. You are branded as a terrorist. You are a bad person. On the other hand, Donald Trump can run on a campaign of creating concentration camps for 20 million undocumented Americans, undocumented migrants that live and work on U.S. soil, and nobody reads that as terrorism. People even turn around and yell at you if you say this is fascism, even though it is a one-to-one comparison to fascist leadership of the past, historical fascism, and the way that it has evolved throughout time. It's like identical to Hitlerian policy, and yet people go, whoa, 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 let's have an argument about this. I don't know if this is correct or not. Okay? You call everything fascism. It's like this guy literally quoted Adolf Hitler and wants to do Adolf Hitler's policy. It's ridiculous.
The House set
just something to consider for many people. Hopefully this will be helpful in getting you to understand how social dynamics play out.